As you probably know, Germany lost the Second World War in 1945. Their ragtag collection of big cats, wonder tanks, Stugs and JagdPanzers were nowhere near enough to stop the onslaught of the Soviets to their east or the Western Allies to their west. The Third Reich was dissolved, Germany was split in two, and the German army was disbanded. So that begs the question, if they lost the war using these in 1945, what was Germany doing with these in 1957? This is the story of how the new Bundeswehr managed to keep what was essentially a Second World War design operational and relevant well into the 1980s and upgrade it with new technology to serve into the early 2000s. Kanonen, Raketen, Jaguar and whatever on earth this is, these are the last JagdPanzers. With the collapse of Nazi Germany in 1945, Germany was split into East and West, with each big Allied nation being assigned a zone of control. Even after the formation of West Germany in 1949, Allied regulations forbade the Germans from having any sort of military. The French were especially keen that Germany remained unarmed for obvious reasons. However, as tensions continued to rise with the Soviet Union, and following a failed bid to create a joint European army in 1954, the French relented, allowing West Germany to join NATO and rearm accordingly. A new ally. The new Bundeswehr was formed on the 12th of November 1955. It was unavoidable that many of those serving in the new army would have served in the old one, the bad one. This led to lots of immoral decisions and furthered the clean Wehrmacht myth, but that's a topic for another video. The point is that, to a certain extent, some tactics and doctrine carried over from the Wehrmacht to the Bundeswehr, and this new army needed a lot of new armoured vehicles. The first tanks of the Bundeswehr would be American, M47 medium and M41 light tanks. For the new Panzer Grenadier companies, some sort of armoured transport would be required to serve the same roles as the SD-KFZ 251 and 250 half-tracks they had a decade earlier. The Germans rejected the APC battle taxi doctrine of the US and Soviets, instead opting to develop a vehicle that could transport the infantry and then fight alongside them, the First Infantry Fighting Vehicle, or IFV. However, West Germany was forbidden to export arms. This meant that German companies weren't interested in developing the new vehicle as their potential profit was very limited, so they looked elsewhere. They procured the Schützenpanzer 11-2 from France as a pseudo-replacement for the SD-KFZ 250, light transport and armoured reconnaissance. For the larger transport, the 251 equivalent, they went to Hispano-Suiza, who had formed a consortium with the British companies to put forward a joint design, the HS-30. I'll skip ahead here, but basically, they ordered 10,680 of these new vehicles before any of them had ever been made. Hispano-Suiza had never made a tracked armoured vehicle before, and when it arrived for testing in 1958, that fact became all too clear. It was rubbish. The order was cut to 2,800 and split between Hanomag and Henschel in Germany and Leyland in the UK. There's a whole story here and lots about corruption and bribery and Nazis, but we'll skip ahead. This isn't a video about HS-30. My question to you is, what do former Wehrmacht officers do with a mostly obsolete but still functional chassis? Yep, you guessed it, turn it into a casemate tank destroyer. Welcome to the KanonenJagdPanzer 1-3. But before we get into the details, a word from today's sponsor, Raycon. This year, it's time to keep your ears open and the holiday music playing with Raycon's Essential Open Earbuds. They're sleek, smart and comfortable at an affordable price point, and this Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can save up to 30% on all Raycon audio products. This of course includes the Essential Open Earbuds, which keep your ears open while delivering crystal clear sound from just outside your ear canal. When I'm out for a walk, it's so refreshing to be able to hear my surroundings as well as my music after years of using noise-cancelling products. The lightweight design and multi-angle hook combine to make you forget you're wearing them at all, and the multi-point connectivity allows you to connect multiple devices hassle-free. I'd really recommend giving them a go. Black Friday is around the corner. Raycon audio products are up to 30% off site-wide. From everyday essentials to the latest releases, it's the perfect time to upgrade your sound or get ahead on gifting. These early deals won't last long though, shop now before they're gone. Just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/RWFopen to save up to 30% on Raycon audio products site-wide. But yes, perhaps unsurprisingly, the Germans opted to create another vehicle along the lines of the Stug 3 or the JagdPanzer 4. One that was relatively cheap to build, had a decent gun, and could operate alongside existing vehicles like the M47, as well as new designs like the HS-30 and the future Leopard. The gun chosen was the French 90mm DEFA D915, the same gun used on the AMX ELC. While this low-pressure 90mm was not the most potent gun in the world, the heat shells it fired were capable of going through up to 320mm of steel armour, more than enough to take out Soviet main battle tanks. HS-30's crew compartment and troop compartments were merged into a single roomy interior, providing space for the commander and loader behind the new gun. The driver sat at the front left, with the gunner on the front right. The crew were protected by 30mm Vanguard armour at the front and 20mm at the side, with a large cast gun shield around 40mm thick. The space behind them, same as HS-30, was occupied by the 220 horsepower Rolls-Royce B81, which gave the little cheese wedge a respectable horsepower per tonne ratio of 16 and a top speed of just over 51 km/h. The new vehicle arrived for testing in 1959, and it was terrible. Firstly, the 1.5 metre wide crew compartment had been acceptable for the HS-30, but for this tank destroyer it was ridiculously cramped. If the gun was aimed right, the driver couldn't steer, and if it was aimed left, the gunner was trapped against the wall by the breech and couldn't fire. From his position, the loader could not reach the radio that he was meant to be operating. The gun, despite its high penetration, had limited range and frankly terrible accuracy. The placement of the gun that far forward caused far too much weight to rest on the front wheels, which now broke every 40 miles. The vehicle was rejected with 2 prototypes completed. One of these prototypes is on display at the Münster Tank Museum, as you can see here. Except, goodness me, is that a missile on top? Yes, this is the RaketenJagdPanzer 3-3. This vehicle, converted from the KanonenJagdPanzer 1-3, mounted French SS-11 ATGMs in a twin mount, with the gun hole welded over, as you can sort of see here. This was a much more successful vehicle, as there was no gun breech to get in the way, the weight distribution was better, and the wire-guided SS-11s were a lot more capable than the gun, offering 600mm of armour penetration. The RaketenJagdPanzer 3-3 actually made it into production as well, with 95 of the little tank destroyers completed. Usually this design is referred to as the RaketenJagdPanzer 1, and we'll get to why a little later. Anyway, the Germans used the failure of the 90mm armed vehicle as a learning experience, and soon began developing a more mature vehicle from the ground up. What they wanted, essentially, was a larger version of the existing design with a more powerful gun. By scaling everything up, it meant more room for the crew and better weight distribution, as well as being able to fit a larger engine. German firms Henschel and Hanomag completed with Swiss Mauag for the contract. Mauag put forward the Gepard, a 90mm armed casemate version of their Tornado IFV, which itself was closely linked to Germany's Marder. In the end, the Mauag design was rejected, and the 2 German companies worked together on what had originally been Hanomag's proposal. The new vehicle emerged in 1965 as the KanonenJagdPanzer 4-5. It looks almost identical to the 1-3, but it is quite a bit larger, nearly 2 meters longer, 50 centimeters wider, and 25 centimeters taller, with a 500 horsepower MTU diesel engine and a Rheinmetall 90mm gun firing Heat or Hesh rounds. The crew layout was identical, but each man had considerably more room in the larger fighting compartment, which had the same 30mm frontal and 20mm side armour as its predecessor. The larger engine with this relatively thin armour meant the vehicle was capable of a blistering 70 km/h. This JagdPanzer was a good JagdPanzer, and it was soon adopted by the Bundeswehr, with 770 units produced between 1966 and 1967, evenly split between Hanomag and Henschel. 80 modified vehicles were actually delivered to Belgium in 1975, the only foreign user of the KanonenJagdPanzer. In Bundeswehr service, the 4-5 was an ambush vehicle, designed to take positions ahead of advancing Soviet tanks, wait for a good shot at relatively close range, then use its extreme speed to relocate before firing again. It was not designed to take hits, and ideally it would remain completely hidden at all times, letting the M48 Patents and the new Leopard tanks do the frontline heavy lifting. Unfortunately for the little tank destroyer, the reliance on chemical rounds rather than kinetic meant that it was essentially obsolete when Soviet vehicles began using composite armour, as it could no longer reliably penetrate an oncoming tank. So in the early 1980s, they were converted into more useful roles. 486 of the vehicles were converted into Beobachtungspanzers, observation tanks, or Beobachtungsführungspanzer, observation command tanks. These vehicles were often used as forward observers for mortar or artillery units and had the gun removed and a plate welded across the barrel. The gun shield was kept so that the weight distribution wasn't too badly affected. However, in a much more fun turn of events, 186 of the KanonenJagdPanzer 4.5s were turned into new RaketenPanzers, the RaketenPanzer IV, also known as the Jaguar II. This mounted a tow missile on top and had additional applique composite armour added, as well as Leopard-style side skirts. In 1989, many were upgraded with the more powerful TOW 2 missile, allowing the vehicle to effectively engage enemy tanks at ranges up to 4 kilometers. You may have noticed that I have skipped from the RaketenJagdPanzer 1 to the RaketenJagdPanzer 4. Doesn't take a genius to work out we still have two vehicles to talk about. Following the success of the SS-11 armed RaketenJagdPanzer 1, the RaketenJagdPanzer 2 was developed alongside the KanonenJagdPanzer 4.5, with 318 being produced alongside its cannon-wielding brother between 1967 and 1968. This vehicle mounted the SS-11 just like its predecessor, but was faster, roomier, and could carry more ATGMs into battle. From 1968, each company of the Panzer Grenadier Brigades will be equipped with 8 of these tank destroyers. And starting around 1978, they were upgraded, becoming RaketenJagdPanzer IIIs, also known as the Jaguar I. These new vehicles operated the Euromissile Hot in a single launcher, carrying 19 missiles under armour and 1 in the launcher on the roof. These enjoyed the same applique armour and side skirts as the tow-toting Jaguar IIs. In the early 1990s, the hot-armed Jaguar Is were upgraded with new optics and a thermal imaging system, creating the Jaguar I-A3. This new vehicle led to the retirement of the tow-armed Jaguar IIs, which were phased out of service in 1993. The Jaguar I-A3s served for another 12 years, remaining in service until 2005 and outlasting the last Beobachtungspanzers, which had made it to 2003. So, 2005 was the last year of the JagdPanzer. Germany likely created the first tank destroyer in 1940 with the Panzer Jaguar I, refined the concept with the Stugs and JagdPanzers of the late war, then recreated the design in the late 1950s with the KanonenJagdPanzer 1.3 and 4.5, which evolved into the missile-toting RaketenJagdPanzers serving into the 21st century. The legacy of these vehicles does still serve today with the Schützenpanzer Marder I. The KanonenJagdPanzer 4.5 and RaketenPanzer II were initially developed to be part of the Marder family, with the Belgian 4.5s using a significant number of Marder components, so at least there's that. Who knows, maybe there will be a railgun or energy weapon toting JagdPanzer in the near future. Someone just needs to work out what that would be in German. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video guys, it was a fun one to make. If you did enjoy, please drop a like below and subscribe for more content. If you want to support the channel further, I'd encourage you to support me on Patreon like these lovely people. If not, I'll see you next time.